welcome to the Clock Hour. I'm your host, Marv Kennel. I have a very, very special guest with me today, Miss Margret Bowens.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Can't complain.
And I see that you are running for a position with the Board of Education.
Yes, that is a new goal and journey for me to be in that
Yeah?
role.
And you work with the kids anyway. Most people know you around here.
Yep, absolutely. I've been working for a long time, decades.
Which is, you know what? I look at that as a good thing because what was that old song? I believe children are the future.
Yep.
That is so true. That's why that song was so powerful. Not to throw anybody off, but that was Whitney, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I
Yeah.
about that.
So that's what brought you to where you're going now.
Yes, I think that's another part of this journey of coming back into this sector at the recreation center in my life that was asked. I thought about it and I was like, okay, I think I could do that more than being a state rep or board of alderman. I think that was more a better fit for me
Yeah.
because they've asked. People said ask.
You work with the kids.
Yeah. I think that's my thing. Yeah.
And you know what? That's actually a trying avenue because I was up here with some guests before, and I come from the prison system, federal prison system, and I go into the schools now as a sub, and it was always interesting, and I really just wanted to know what was wrong or what we could do to kind of not saying it's a problem, but because it's not, you have a lot of great kids out there. But there are some where somebody's coming up short. I say it starts at home.
I think there's a yes in there and then there's a no in there because you expect it to start at home. But when a parent is doing so much, they're trying their hardest, whether they're in a two-family home or a one-family home. There's always going to be that one or a couple kids who are going to stare off, and that's from what they learned outside.
Right. And you know what? I even asked them, I said, do y'all play outside? We used to play outside
Yes,
when we
we
were
did.
kids. Well, I hated that was the worst punishment you could give me by telling me I had to stay in the house. But I realize I see that they don't play outside the way that they used to play out. We used to play outside.
Yeah, I mean, because back then it was a lot more safer. If you think about it, I mean, we were able to go outside, doors were open. You can go to your neighbor's house, you can go anywhere you wanted in the street as long as you didn't move off. But then today is a lot different.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'll agree with you on that one. So let me ask you a question. What does it take to get on that board of the Board of Education?
Yeah.
What does that entail?
I am still not clear what it is, but I do. I think all you have to do is just really reach out, or some reach out to you. Someone asked me a long time ago. I was like, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do. And then another person did ask, and I was like, no. But someone did come out and was like, hey, would you consider yourself running a board of education? And I was like, okay, what does that entail?
Right.
And it's just basically being alongside with our mayor, of course, alongside with our superintendent, and some of the other affiliates that are on the board as well. And then just making some decisions for schooling. And I mean, I don't know as much because this is all new
Right.
for me. But definitely if I get that seat, then, I'll have to dig a little deeper. I'm not
So
a
we're going to
person
time out.
Yep.
We're going to say, there's no if, when you get the seat.
Okay.
We're not
Yes.
saying, we calling this one.
Yes,
We're going to
yeah.
call this
Everyone's
one.
saying that.
Because you'll be my questions. I may have questions.
Yeah.
Because I see certain things and by me running around that sub circuit. And, I've come from, corrections. So I'm running around the circuit and I see certain things and I'm like, well, why is why? And what can we do to adjust this? But I'm going to be honest with you and I'm going to tell the people this. I got my butt kicked by fourth graders last week. They really wore me out. You know, and I think because there is, I have no tools, but that laptop, that was the tool I can use. You know, and even then, that really wasn't a tool.
Correct.
So the way that I did it was I made one at a time you can get your laptop. You can, and the ones that were giving me a hard time, I made them wait. So this way their time was cut short that they can be on theirs. But that was the only tool I had.
Well, you got to look at it like this as a parent, right?
Right.
You know, we always hire babysitters, right?
My son's grown now.
Exactly.
Right.
But just imagine that as a parent, you set down your rules and they're
Right.
fine. Now you leave it up to the babysitter because you have to go to work or whatever.
Right.
How's that child going to act? They're going to see what they can get away with.
Right.
I wouldn't say you're defeated because I get defeated almost every other day.
Right.
But I'm also happy for the goals that are met, the accomplished that I get, the little sorries and the hugs that run in the next day.
Right.
But we all get burnt out. And I do understand when you're saying, like, you know, I'm going in this seat for people like such as yourself who are teachers,
Right.
such as parents, such as even the kids that grew up under me who are teachers who are finding it hard to exist in the school system.
Right.
Trying to adapt to roles and some of the things that they've learned are now inside the schools that they're just not understanding.
Right. And you know what? Looking around, I believe that the structure of it is great. You know, I've been in schools, they had the lockdown, all the doors start closing and everything during one of them lockdowns. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, they didn't tell me where to go. But I went into, you know, conference room out of the way. But I see how that system is in place. That's beautiful.
It's important.
You know, and I think maybe, let's say the lessons. You know what I mean? You see certain lessons in school and certain lessons are not there. You know, but the overall structure of the system works.
Yes.
You know, you have the cops in the high schools and stuff
Yep.
like that because you need them. It's a
Yep.
different generation.
Absolutely.
You know, I just seen on the news clip
Just
about a
recently.
fight
Yep. At
my
one of the
old
schools.
school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so I understand that. And you know, maybe one school they'll have you walk the halls. I said, man, I'm an old man now. I don't want to walk the halls like that. You know, and the kid they follow. Why you following me? Why you
Yep.
following? They got
Yep.
beef.
Yep.
Be like, okay, but I think that the overall structure it's working. But I don't see where the education part of it is there.
Well, I think it's hard because there's always three sides to the story, right? It's the
Right.
student side, it's the
Right.
administrative side, and then you're fighting with the media side and parent side and so on and so on. It's hard because as you're trying to capitalize on education, you're still trying to capitalize on how do we get the students to stop fighting?
Right.
You know, how do we get
That's
the
always gonna
students to
be.
listen? And that's always going to be our cross to bear. I do believe, you know, listening to you, like how you said about the laptops. I was just talking to one of my young adults, and she's like, I don't understand why we have laptops. These kids are not paying attention to them. They're doing YouTube. They're not even doing their work. They need to go back to books and reading and things like that. So we just have to we got to figure out a happy medium because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you know, there are kids who will excel using their laptops,
Right.
and there are going to be kids who are going to excel with using their books. But there are also going to be kids who just say, I don't even want to do this.
I walk around, and in certain classes they'll tell on each other, but the YouTube is out, and I walk around. The books this kid told me he couldn't read. That hurt me because you know there's so much information out there that that they can pick up just by reading. And you know what I did do? I had them write who they were and tell me a little bit about themselves, and I made them stand up in front of the class.
There's a disconnect somewhere. I was
It
just
is.
listening to one of my family members saying that she was having a hard time understanding why her younger kid is not. He can identify, but he can't really say. So he can say this is this, but well, he could say it, but can't identify it. Basically,
Right.
he was saying. So there is definitely a disconnect, and I don't know where it is. I mean, we keep saying, oh, it's COVID, it's this, that, and the other, but we're like what 6, 7 years in.
Yeah, we're looking
And
for something to blame it on.
yeah, and I have to say, this past summer, working with our young people who came into work for me, and I was going over the timesheet, and I was like, okay, this is how you get paid, and at the end, I want you to write your name and your signature, and they was like, what's a signature? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't know what a signature is? It's like, no. I said, okay, well, let's bring it back. I said, so we're going to work on it's like brand signing.
Right.
They're like, what? I said, okay, let me break it up now. I
Right.
said, you guys all play basketball, don't you, right? They're like, yeah. I said, so picture yourself in a line, and everybody's here to see. It's like 1,500 people to see you.
Right.
Writing your name is, you can't keep writing it this way.
Right.
If I wrote my full name out, I'm going to be there forever. So it's just a quick brand of your signature.
Right.
And you're like, oh, there's like, well, I don't know how to do that. Okay, so let's practice it. That penmanship is gone.
They took it. Yeah.
They took it right out.
Yeah, and those are those little things
Yeah.
that you just gave them a whole scenario. Yeah, I'm gonna be the best basketball player, so let me. I always thought my son's handwriting was horrible. I'm like, this is garbage, man. What is this? But those are those things, those little things.
Simple things.
Yeah.
Fundamental. It's like fundamental, yeah.
I made them stand up in front of the class. I said, tell me who you are. Write it down. Passed out blank piece of paper. Write it down. They got to read their own writing. Tell me, who are you? And they told me what they like, what they like to eat, what they like to do, and their full names. What's your full name? What is your name? And you may hear a kid say, I don't know.
Wow.
Let's go. Let's go. And you know what? My thing is, I'm ex-military. So I always like to get into high school and engage them.
Yep.
Like I went to Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I was at a school and I said, you guys wouldn't be here in class together if it wasn't for them 9 kids. And that little girl, Ruby Ridge, whatever her name is, Ruby. And one young lady looked at me like I had 3 heads. And this was when they could still have their phone. I said, Google Little Rock, Arkansas in Central High School. Google it. Her mouth hit the desk. I said, now do your homework on that. Let's talk. Because when I went, they have a museum across the street and you get to listen to the stories. So that's why me getting in there and seeing, what it is, I'm a different look. Like even being in my old high school, it's a different look.
Yep.
And they do business a little different.
Yep.
Not saying that the way they did business when I was a kid was great, but
Well, everybody has changed. Coming even back into the dynamics of being at the recreation center, I was always there, but not until the full-time experience of it.
Right.
And looking at the kids, I don't know them, and so I have to go. What's your name?
Yeah,
What's your last name?
right.
What's your mama's name? What's your daddy's name?
You're going
Because,
back
I gotta
to their
go back
grandparents.
so I can get a gist on who is who. Some kids, absolutely. I've had their kids in our program, so I can definitely relate. But then there's the other few that don't know me, and I don't know
Right.
them. So I have to figure out a way to make it work.
Right.
So it might be, hey, please, I just need you to, what's your name? So-and-so, okay, so I might need you to pull your pants up.
Right.
Okay. Or I might be like, hey, this is not how we act here.
Right.
So I just end up like, okay, sorry, ma'am, whatever. Is it okay that I can play? Absolutely, you can come here every day. Just make sure you're respectful. I don't mind you playing the music in here, as long as it's not no
Right.
swearing and things like that. So it's just getting to know them
Yeah.
more. But I think that's who I've been this whole time anyway.
Yeah.
I'd rather get your respect before you get mine. Once
Okay.
I got you, once I understand who you are, then we can move forward after that. But I mean, it's just like you just said. You said, hey, just tell me about yourself. So now I
Right.
get to know who you are.
Right.
And they're like, oh, Mister is cool.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think I got to them that last day, some of them.
Yeah.
And there were certain ones, because the way that you release them at the end of the day, I told one parent, like, this young lady was very helpful. She was helpful. She would go to the office for me, whatever I need, and she understood. And there was a couple other that would clean up my desk and everything. So, it's a matter, it's not all of them. You may have 3 or 4 that disrupt the class
Yep.
or shake the class
Up.
up.
Yep.
And then the rest of them, they really want to know, but you just those individuals. And that's a lot for a sub if you've never
Yeah.
dealt with those type of people. It's a lot. So I always had a young lady in there with me. That's like West Side. I don't mean to mention no particular school name. West Side sends teachers in there with the subs.
I think that's good. I think they do that
Yeah.
even sometimes on the bus. But I mean, in the summer program I had one girl. Oh my goodness. And I've had mostly every family member
Right.
in that family.
Right.
But this one, oh my goodness.
Just to run for your money.
What?
Yeah.
And most of the time she was right.
Mm-hmm.
It's what comes after.
Right.
You can be 100% right, and I agree with you. It's what comes after.
Right.
And so my whole challenge that whole year was like, it's always her. But then when she got into one situation, I was like, well, that was the one time you was supposed to do something. And she didn't, but I commended her for that.
Right.
Because
Okay.
if she did do something, I was okay with that because, honestly, truth, that was the one time. And when I told her mom that I got her again this year, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, I think all my staff had an issue, but the one thing that I loved about her after so many issues is that she was able to come sit in my office. I had another younger girl who was way younger, and she wound up talking to the young girl. And she said, it's okay if you hit the girl. It's fine. You probably had a reason.
Right.
She said, did you? And the little girl said, no. She said, oh. She said, so you just hit her? She said, yeah. And the young girl was like, was I that bad? But to see her
Right.
now
Transition.
transition, even though she still is,
Right.
but to hear my words coming to her, and her mom is such a great leader. She's in a role of administrative. She's this, that, and the other. So she works with kids nonstop. Dad,
Right.
all that. But to see her sit there and now talk to this young girl, there's hope.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
'cause goodness-
they have it in them.
I was like, oh my goodness. And she smiled. So to see her learn to not take her frustrating and somebody hit me, I hit him. I get somebody hit you, hit them back. I always have that 3 rule. 1, tell the teacher.
Right.
2, tell the teacher, warn the kid. 3rd time, there's nothing I can do.
Right.
I'm trying, but let's try to work. And most of the times, I have to get the. It don't always mean somebody hit you, I hit them back.
Right.
It don't have to be that.
No.
Let us take care of that part for you.
Be like, okay, but then again, where we grew up in the system out here, so we know what it is.
Yeah.
I just let me ask you a question. Once, say for instance, once you're in that position, do y'all get to actually go visit the schools?
Yes, they do. They do get to visit the school. I know that there are times, and actually they meet when you go to the meetings. I believe they meet the 1st and the 3rd Thursday of the month. So they get to go inside the school. Some schools get to bring their presentation to the meeting. But yes, you can definitely go to the schools.
Okay.
My goal is like hopefully I can tap into most of the schools, get a better understanding of the teachers' roles, understanding of a student's role. But at the end of the day, I do understand that, they still have a job.
Right.
Sometimes we feel, I've always made it my business not to feel if my supervisor or my top head CEO was coming, that, oh my goodness, I gotta be on my best
Right.
cues. And I'm
Let's
like,
clean up and make
yeah,
sure we no.
I don't believe in that
Me
because
either.
who I am is how I am, whether I'm at work, church, home, outside, this, that, and that. I mean, there's
Say that
ways
again.
work, how I am. I'm like it at work,
Who I am
home,
is
church,
how I am.
all day,
Say that
every day.
again. One
Who
more
I
time.
am is how I am.
There you go.
Not. I mean, of course, I'm not gonna be this crazy person, this, that, and the other. But I'm gonna be the same way. I don't
Right.
leap for titles. I don't leap for this. But I do know that I would love to go to schools. I would love to be there, but I know I can't all the time because
Right.
it's still a job.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to feel like, oh my goodness, they're watching, because I'm not
Right.
here to watch. I'm here to help.
Yeah.
How can I help your job better? I mean, we
Right.
can't get through everything. We're not going to fix it. There's no
No.
way in the world we're going to fix everything.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
You know, I was in the people business. Now, another thing that was on my mind on my way here. I went a few years ago. They were having that school to prison pipeline talk. I guess that talk went away. I forget the guy's name. Richard, I think his first name was. I'm not sure of his name, but they were having that discussion because, you know, I come from the prison system, so I used to work with them on getting the apprenticeship done. And then you can't get a raise if you don't have no diploma or GED. You can only make so much a month if you don't have your GED or high school diploma. So I was big on that because I had a work crew of like 40 something. So I kept them involved in, are you going to school? You're not going to school. And, you know, in the prison system, you may see a person that didn't have time to go to school when they were out here to go to school. And then they end up in there.
Yep.
But, you know, one thing about it, like I was at one school and there's a red line in the middle of the hallway. So that reminded me of the prison system.
It's crazy because I don't wanna, okay. So it's crazy because it was brought to my attention. They're like, I work here. I'm here all the time. And the schools look like a prison. The walls look like a prison. The way the shape is like a prison. Like, it's like, I don't know how much I can take. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe we do art because it's always going to be concrete. It's always going to be that
Right.
style. But it's always going to be easy to, if it's sheetrock, if somebody hits it, it's going to,
But get them, you know,
but maybe some art.
that's it. You know,
Art, paint the walls.
we went, I was with Jew for that
Yep.
project at the court.
Yep.
So we took kids from high school
Yep.
art class and middle school art class to come up with that design. They can do that at the schools.
Yeah, and when he was saying that, I was like, I mean, because every school is like that. You're not going to change that.
Right.
But thinking
That's a
about
suggestion.
a suggestion might be
Right.
each class gears up to paint in their school. Why not?
Right.
You
When
know?
I heard that thing go off or whatever it is, and the door started closing, I'm like, wait a minute, what
Well,
is this?
Yeah,
Which is good.
Yeah, we're in a society where even they were gonna do drills and they're like, oh, why did not let me know? Because in reality is, if something is happening,
You ain't gonna
you're
know.
not gonna know. It's
Right.
how you move. And where my other job is, we run drills all the time. And at the end of the day, you're running it just so you know what to do if it should happen. Because 9 times out of 10, if we're not running it, you don't understand it. You're gonna
Right.
sit, it's like, is this really happening?
Right.
But
The little kids got it. They know they got it.
it's horrible that we have to be in times like that.
Right.
But we're reminded. I was in
Right.
Danbury at the time when that situation happened, and I mean, we didn't know
In
where it was
Newtown,
happening.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember it as clear as day. Driving the road and didn't understand why things were shut down. And then we heard. So
I remember
it's
that.
gonna happen. You just never know when,
Right.
and no one. You hope that
It doesn't.
it doesn't.
Right.
But you just never know. So the
Right.
systems in place are great. And I get parents are nervous, so they want to, but the best thing you can do is just wait until you
Right.
let it happen.
Right.
And let them know that your kids are in the best care.
Right. Right.
So.
So I'm gonna give the rest of this to you.
Okay.
I can talk.
Oh, yeah,
So
I can too.
want whatever you want to let the people know.
Okay.
Let them know.
Well, my name is Margret Hayward Bowen. I know a lot of people know me as Margret from the Rec Center. and I am running for board education. This is citywide, so it doesn't matter what district. I know they have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I have my 2 running mates, which is Latoya Island and Kay as well. But this one is about me, and I'm excited to be in this seat to do it. The community has been really gracious,
Yeah.
which is what I love. They're probably more supportive than my own self. But this is something that means a lot to our community, so I'm grateful for it. I don't have kids, but I have plenty of kids. I have godchildren. My time is well spread out, and it's nice to know to spread it in this direction.
Right.
So when I take the seat, I'm not taking the seat for me. I'm
for-
taking the seat for everybody.
Right.
So my goal is to definitely try to bridge the gaps when it comes to community, because I believe the community organizations can definitely take a help in hand in working with the kids, because at the end of the day, you work them in the school system, and we can work with them in our
Right.
community. I'm also a firm believer that we can get our parents to get a little bit more better and on board.
Right.
And we can come to that right there is the most important.
Staying in the mix and,
Yeah.
and staying involved. That's what I like.
And know that your voice matters, and don't take no for an answer. Be persistent.
Right.
We're going to get a lot of doors, closed in our face, but there are going to be a lot of open doors too.
Right.
We just have to keep pushing and fighting for the right things. And then the last thing would be the absentee thing. I hear there's a lot of kids who are not going to school. We just have to figure that part out.
Right. What's wrong?
What's wrong?
Because you're doing the breakfast, the school lunches, and everything. The
Well,
snacks.
the kids said the breakfast, the lunches got to get a little better, so we got to work on that little part.
Yeah, I get
but
it.
We'll get it.
But
We'll
I
get
thank you for coming through. My show was for the people, about the people, and by the people. You got my support.
I appreciate it. I hope I got everybody else's support. Vote. Voting is now, so you have up until November 2nd, early voting, 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock at City Hall, and then you can vote November 4th, row A.
November 4th, vote. And a lot of people, they skip voting locally, but this is where it starts.
Yes.
You vote locally, so that way later on it get where it needs to go. You start locally. So don't skip voting. Some people skip the big election. Oh, I sat down this one. What do you mean you sat down on this one? So if you have the right to vote, vote. You don't want to lose it.
Don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.